I built a small fire and kept it low because the wind kept kicking sparks into dry needles. I ate half a protein bar and saved the rest like I was suddenly smart. I've been just taking a shortcut for hours. That's what I told myself while my phone map spun like a drunk compass and my battery bled out. I stepped off the main trail because I didn't want to add 2 miles. Dumb. The ground got steeper, the trees got tighter, and every correction turned into another wrong turn. I pushed through brush, slid down loose dirt, climbed over deadfall, and kept pretending the next gap would open back up. It never did. When I finally found a boot print, it was mine. I kept arguing with myself out loud. Go uphill, no go down, stay put. No keep moving like saying it makes it true. I climbed onto a boulder for signal and almost ate shit on wet lichen. I followed what I thought was water and realized it was wind. The light just thinned until everything looked the same. I checked my pack like a checklist. Headlamp, knife, lighter, first aid, water. I had enough to survive a night. That didn't mean I could outrun anything. My phone hit 10%, and I stopped looking at it because watching it die felt like watching a door close. So I made camp where I stood because wandering in the dark felt like volunteering to break an ankle. I cleared a spot, set my pack down, and kept turning my head like I'd catch the forest watching me. My shoulder ached from carrying too much water, and my hands shook from the crash you get when adrenaline realizes it has nowhere to go. I got the fire going small, tucked behind a log, and kept it low because the needles were dry and I didn't want my mistake to turn into a wildfire headline. At some point, the forest went quiet in a way that felt deliberate. No vox, no vir noise, just my fire clicking. A twig snapped to my left, then another behind me, then a slow crunch that stayed in motion, like someone making a circle. I grabbed my knife and stood with my back to a tree. I swung my headlamp around and got nothing but trunks and black gaps. The beam made little tunnels of light, and the rest looked closer, like it leaned in. I held it on one spot, waited for eye shine, got nothing, swung again, faster. The quiet didn't break. It just waited. The steps stopped. Something sniffed near my pack. Not animal sniffs. Short breaths through a nose, close and human. I shouted once. No answer. I didn't chase. I didn't move. I just listened. My pack slid a few inches. I heard fabric scrape. Whoever it was didn't want my face. They wanted my stuff. I told myself that was good news and hated myself for believing it. It slid again. Slow. Testing. Like it wanted me to grab it. I lunged forward and grabbed the strap. The other side yanked back. Hard. I fell and got dragged through leaves like a dog toy. My shoulder slammed a root, and I saw white for a second. Pain shot down my arm and into my fingers. I tried to hook my heels into the dirt, and it did nothing. Whoever held the other end had leverage and used it like they'd done this before. The strap burned my palm, and I still wouldn't let go because letting go felt like giving permission. I kicked at the dark and caught a shin. A man grunted and stumbled into the firelight for half a second. He wore a hood and carried a loop of cord in his hand. Not a leash, not a rope for camping, a loop already shaped. My stomach dropped. People steal. Fine, but you don't walk into someone's camp at night holding a loop like that unless you've practiced. He didn't wave it. He didn't threaten. He just kept it open, ready. His other hand stayed low, like he wanted to grab my collar and turn me. He stepped toward me, and I slashed at his arm. I felt cloth tear. He jerked back and made this piss sound through his teeth, like I'd scratched him, like I'd ruined his timing. He came in again anyway, quicker, and the loop swung up. I shoved my pack between us like a shield, and it knocked the breath out of me when he hit it. He wasn't huge, but he was solid, and he moved like he knew exactly how close he needed to get. That's when I stopped pretending he only wanted my pack. My brain threw up one clear thought. If that cord touches my neck once, I won't get a second chance. I crawled to the fire and kicked it apart. Embers scattered. Smoke rose. The light died. I heard him swear, low, and I felt him shift fast like he was trying to close before I disappeared. Something brushed my shoulder, maybe his hand, maybe the cord, and my whole body lit up with panic. I threw myself forward and ran. I ran blind. I hit branches. I tripped. I got up. I kept running because I didn't want that cord touching my neck. Behind me, he didn't sprint. He walked and kept snapping sticks on purpose, like he wanted me to know he could follow whenever he felt like it. That part messed with me more than the grab. If he'd charged, I could have called him an animal and made it make sense. But he paced me. He let me burn energy. Snap, pause, crunch, snap, like he was counting. I tried to cut off the trail entirely, shove through brush, and lose him. Thorns tore my forearms. Branches slapped my face. I turned my headlamp off once to listen and instantly panicked because the dark felt like a hand over my eyes. I flicked it back on. The battery icon blinked red like a countdown. I threw a rock into the woods to my right to fake my direction, then ran left. The snapping followed left, like he saw the trick and didn't care. I found the trail by luck and blood, then limped for 2 hours with my headlamp dimming, waiting for the crunch of steps to return. I didn't stop at the first open spot because I kept thinking he'd step out and close the gap. I kept walking because walking was the only thing between me and him deciding to finish it. My legs cramped. My mouth dried out. My shoulder throbbed with every swing of my arm, but I couldn't strap it because I needed both hands free. Once I thought I heard the snap right behind me, and I spun so hard I fell. Nothing, just dark in my own breathing. I got back up and kept going, crying without sound because I couldn't waste the air. When the sky finally went gray, I hit a posted marker and nearly collapsed. Human signage felt like proof I still lived in the same world as everyone else. I reached the trailhead and then my car, locked myself in, and sat there shaking with my forehead on the steering wheel. My palm had a rope burn line across it from the strap, and that stupid detail made me furious because it felt like evidence I could have lost. I tried to call for help and got nothing until I drove far enough to catch a signal, and then I sounded like a maniac trying to explain it without sounding like a maniac. I kept checking the rear view like he'd stroll out of the trees and tap my window. I didn't even drive straight home. I hit a gas station, parked under the brightest light, and sat there with the doors locked until my hands stopped shaking. When I finally washed up, the water ran brown off my arms, and I kept staring at my neck in the mirror like I expected to see a mark that wasn't there. I went home and didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that loop hanging in midair. I kept replaying the way he walked behind me, like patience was the whole point. In the morning, I went back with a ranger. I showed up scratched up, filthy, arm hanging wrong, and they looked at me like I was either lying or dramatic. I got pissed. I kept repeating the same detail because it was the only one that mattered. A loop of cord already shaped. One guy tried to steer it into maybe an animal. I snapped back that bears don't make loops. I shoved my hand out and made them look at the burn line on my palm and the bruise climbing up my forearm. A ranger finally agreed to hike in with me. He kept his radio clipped high and his hand near it. The woods sounded normal again. Birds, wind, little movements, and it made me feel insane. I kept scanning for a hood between trunks. We found my pack ripped open. Straps sliced, zipper torn, everything dumped and picked through. The ranger crouched, traced the drag marks, and his face changed. Less doubt, more work. He pointed out where the pack had been pulled, where my boot prints went sideways, where something heavier had stood. We found a grocery bag tied to a branch near my camp, full of raw meat and flies. It hung there like a marker, like someone wanted whatever came to that smell to stop right where I'd been sitting. The meat had started to rot, gray at the edges, wet with insects. The plastic rubbed the bark in the breeze, and that soft scrape made my skin crawl because it sounded too close to something sliding through a hand. I stood there staring at it, thinking about the quiet, the circle of steps, the pack moving before I ever saw him. Bait. For animals. Or for me. Same difference. My boot slid on wet leaves, and my ankle popped like a zipper. I hit the ground and tasted dirt. I tried to stand, and my foot folded under me. I swore and punched the soil once like that would fix it, The pain came in waves, not just in the ankle, but up into my knee and then straight in my teeth. I kept blinking like the forest would snap back into something normal. It didn't. It just sat there dripping and quiet while I lay on my side like an idiot. I told myself it was a quick loop. I'd left the car with half a water bottle, a snack bar, and a phone I hadn't charged. I didn't even pack a real first aid kit. That little voice that always says, "Don't be lazy, bring your shit," had gotten drowned out by me wanting to get out of my apartment. Now, I was alone, hurting, and suddenly counting every stupid choice like it mattered. I tried to stand again, slower, using a tree. The second my weight touched down, my foot buckled, and I dropped. My boot didn't feel like it lined up with my leg anymore. I did that awful gasp laugh people do when they're scared and pissed at the same time. I pulled my phone out with muddy fingers and watched the screen lag. One bar of service flickered, then vanished. The map that spun like a loading icon in hell. Battery at 18%. Of course. I crawled to the trail marker I thought I'd seen. No marquer. Just trunks in the same dam, ferns repeating. My phone showed a dot spinning. No signal. Battery at 18%. I turned in a slow circle on my knees, trying to match the slope, try to remember if I'd taken the left fork or the right fork. My head kept replaying earlier bits of trail like I could rewind myself out of this. Nothing matched. I hated how fast "I'm fine" turned into "I'm actually fucked." I dragged myself downhill because downhill felt like towards something. I used my belt as a wrap and tightened until my toes went numb. It wasn't smart, but it stopped the ankle from flopping, and it gave me something to do besides panic. I shoved my broken pride into the dirt and started moving any way I could, hands, elbows, one good leg. Every few minutes, I stopped to listen for other hikers, for a dog, for anything human. All I heard was my own breathing and the wet shuck of leaves under my palms. The slope got steeper and the ground got softer. I slid more than I crawled. My sleeves tore the elbows. My knee started bleeding through my pants. I kept telling myself, just get to a road, just get to a stream, just get to a place where you can follow something. I tried yelling once. The sound died fast, swallowed by trees. Then the smell changed. Old smoke, like a fire that never fully went out. Under that, a sharp chemical bite that made my nose burn. I got this quick rush of relief. People. Then my gut tightened because it didn't come with any other signs of people. No voices. No music. Nobody gathers. Just smell and silence. I found a blue tarp first, then a fire ring, then a pile of cans crushed flat like someone stomped them for fun. It wasn't a hiker site. No neat gear. No backpack. Just trash, rope, and a plastic kiddie pool full of brown water. The clearing looked worked over, like branches had been trimmed back on purpose. The rope wasn't random. It was coiled. There were knots already tied into sections like somebody practiced. The pool had a skin on the water, and something dark clung to the inside rim. It smelled like old dishwater and wet metal. My arm started shaking from dragging myself. I leaned on a tree and rested, breathing hard. The tarp shifted, not flapped, shifted like a shoulder moving under a blanket. My skin went cold. I clicked on my flashlight, even though it was still daylight, because I needed something solid to point at what was happening. I aimed my flashlight and saw a hand pull it back from inside. A man crawled out, slow, like he'd been waiting for me to get close. No buck, no boots, just socks and a hunting knife. His socks were soaked through and filthy, like he'd been walking around in mud for hours and didn't care. The knife sat loose in his hand, blade down, casual. He didn't look confused. He looked ready. He had that weathered, sleepless look people get when they've been outside too long, and his lips were cracked like he didn't drink enough water. He looked at my wrapped ankle and smiled like I delivered myself. That smile hit me harder than the injury. My brain tried to throw out explanations. Lost camper, mental illness, whatever, while my body screamed, no, no, no. I started backing up on my hands, stupid slow, because my ankle made running impossible. I told myself, be loud, be mean, scare him off, And then I realized I was thinking like this was a normal creep and not a guy who lived under a tarp with rope. I grabbed a rock and threw it. It hit his shoulder. He cursed and came at me anyway. I jammed my trekking pole into his chest and pushed. He grabbed the pole and yanked. My hand slipped. The pole snapped. The crack was loud, sharp like breaking a bat. I felt my last bit of distance disappear. He lunged again, and the knife flashed just enough for me to see it wasn't dull. I kicked out with my good foot and caught his shin. He didn't even stumble. He just reached, and I felt his fingers brush my boot, like he wanted to grab the ankle and see what happened if he twisted it. He didn't rush me like a movie. He didn't need to. He stepped around, patient, cutting off the downhill. He kept his body between me and the slope like he was herding cattle. He didn't need to run. He just needed me to keep crawling. I tried to pivot downhill anyway, and he shifted with me, knife hand low, ready. I saw the rope behind him. I saw the pool. I saw that tarp like a mouth, and my throat closed. I crawled the other way, uphill, using my elbows, ripping my sleeves. He followed and kept pace. Leaves crunched behind me the whole time. I kept thinking, scream again, scream louder, but it felt pointless. The trees ate sound. Also, I didn't want him to know how close I was to losing it, like that mattered, like pride had any place here. The uphill turned my arms to jelly. My belt wrap loosened, and I retightened it with shaking hands until my foot tingled and went numb again. The whole time those sock steps stayed behind me. He didn't swear anymore. He didn't talk. That steady crunch was worse than talking. It said he had time. I reached a fallen log and rolled off the slope into a gully. The drop hurt like hell, but it bought distance. Mud slammed into my face, and I tasted iron and rot. I lay there shaking, listening to his steps stop above me. I pulled myself deeper under the bank, inch by inch, until the dirt overhang hid me from straight view. I held my breath, so hard my chest hurt. His shadow cut across the edge. He stood there long enough for me to count his breathing. Slow, controlled, like he was enjoying listening to me try not to make noise. I waited for him to climb down. I waited for the knife to scrape rock. Nothing. Somewhere up there, something clicked once. Maybe his tongue, maybe the knife handle, maybe my brain making noise out of fear. He didn't climb down. He just stood there, breathing, then walked away like he knew I couldn't go far. The crunching faded, not fast, not panic, just leaving. Like he'd set a trap and didn't need to spring it right now. My brain started screaming new possibilities. He's looping around. He's going back to the tarp for rope. He's gonna wait on the trail because I'll have to come out. I hated that my mind kept doing his work for him. I fumbled for my phone with hands that didn't feel like mine. 7%. No bars. I tried dialing 911 anyway. It didn't connect. I tried again. Nothing. I toggled airplane mode like a moron, like I could brute force the woods into giving me a signal. The screen dimmed. Another warning popped. I shoved it in my pocket, angry at it, angry at myself. Night came fast in that gully. The temperature dropped and the mud turned colder, like it held a chill. My ankle swelled until the boot felt too tight. I loosened the laces with my teeth and almost cried from the relief and pain at the same time. I didn't take it off because the thought of the joint moving loose made me sick. I kept my body still because every movement sounded loud in my own head. Every time a branch creaked up top, my heart slammed. I listened for footsteps that might never come and swear I heard the crunch again. Then nothing. At some point my phone buzzed its last warning and the screen went black. No light, no time, just dark. I pressed the button over and over like a prayer. Nothing. I hated the quiet after it died. It felt like getting cut off from the whole world. I stayed in that gully until daylight, covered in mud, ankle swelling, phone dead, thinking about that tarp lifting like a mouth. I chased a shortcut and ended up in fog so thick I could only see my own hands. Not the path, not the trees, just my fingers floating in white. The trail vanished under needles and wet dirt. My phone map stuttered, froze, then went blank like it got tired of lying. I pulled my compass because I didn't want to admit I was already lost. The needle spun in circles fast like it was laughing at me. I tapped it, held it away from my phone, and keys still spinning. I listened for the main trail and heard nothing. I walked because standing still felt like letting something find me. I kept one hand out, brushing trunks so I wouldn't drift. The fog wasn't drifting. It was sitting there, heavy like it had weight. Every few steps I stopped and turned, tried to catch a slope or a landmark, and every time it was the same white nothing. I yelled once. My voice died a few feet out, and the quiet swallowed it. That quiet made me angry, like the woods were ignoring me on purpose. A light blinked between the trunks. Not a flashlight sweep. A steady glow, low to the ground, moving without sound. It didn't brighten the fog around it. It just existed bright and wrong, like a coal behind a sheet. I told myself it was a marker, then a lantern, then a person. I followed it because fear makes you stupid and hope makes you worse. The glow slid ahead, paused, slid again, always just far enough to drag me forward. It led me into a clearing where the fog thinned enough to show a shack squatting there. The door hung crooked on one hinge. A generator hummed behind it, steady, like it had fresh gas. The smell hit first: gas, bleach, and something sour like rotten fruit. Not someone's cleaning. Someone's hiding. My stomach clenched like I'd just seen roadkill up close. I stepped closer and saw boots lined up on the porch. Not any like family shoes. A pile arranged into a line. Work boots, hiking boots, a kid-sized sneaker, smash flat. Too many. Like somebody stripped people down to keep them from running. My eyes kept counting without permission. 10, 12, more, shoved behind the post. I started backing up, slow, and snapped a branch under my heel. It cracked sharp and loud. The generator didn't change pitch, but a man stepped out anyway, fast, like he'd been waiting for that exact noise. Rifle held low. He didn't point it at my chest right away. He scanned my hands, my pockets, my bag, then my face like he was sorting me into a category. His expression stayed flat. Not surprised, not angry, calm. That calm scared the shit out of me because it meant I wasn't new to him. I lifted my palms. I'm lost. I'm leaving. My voice cracked. He didn't answer like a normal person. He just said, "Come here," like it was paperwork. I took another step back. He stepped off the porch and closed the distance without hurrying, like the woods were his hallway, and I was the one trespassing. The rifle stayed low, which felt worse. Like I didn't need it raised yet. He got close enough that I saw grime packed under his nails and a pale streak on his forearm, like an old burn. He looked at my backpack again, and I got this clean thought. He's deciding whether I'm worth dragging. That thought snapped me. I turned and ran. The fog swallowed me the second I hit the trees. I threw my arms up so I wouldn't smash my face on a trunk. I expected him to crash through brush behind me. He didn't. I couldn't hear him at all. I could just feel him there, tracking, patient. I tried to zigzag, hard turns, but the fog made direction meaningless. It felt like running inside a bag someone was holding closed around my head. I tried my phone while I ran. No signal. I hit the emergency call anyway, thumb slipping on the screen. It failed. The battery icon dropped like it was bleeding. I shoved it back in my pocket and kept moving, lungs ripping cold air down my throat burning like I'd been screaming even though I hadn't. My shin hit a wire at exactly the wrong height and my legs went out. I flipped forward and my face slammed into needles. Dirt packed into my mouth. The wire bit my leg and held me like a hook. I grabbed it to pull myself up and felt barbs. Sharp little teeth that caught skin the second I touched them. Someone strung it on purpose. Not for deer. Deer don't carry phones and wallets. I yanked and the barbs tore my pant leg and opened my shin. Warm blood ran straight into my sock. My boot went wet and heavy. I bit down on a sound because yelling felt like giving him target. Then I heard him, finally, one soft crunch close by, careful like he stepped on a branch on purpose just to tell me he was near. No kitty, like he knew the wire did its job. I tore at the wire until it let go with an ugly rip. Then I crawled a few feet before I stood. My leg screamed every time I put weight on it. I limped and half ran anyway, stopping meant him stepping out of the fog and grabbing me like I was property. My hands kept checking the air in front of me for another line, like I was swimming through traps. I started talking to myself without meaning to. Move. Don't fall. I swore louder, not brave, just desperate. I crashed through brush on purpose to make noise, hoping it would pull someone in or piss him off enough to chase Sloppy. Nothing answered. No birds. No other hikers. Just my own breath and that occasional quiet crunch behind me, placed like punctuation. I hit another line, thin cord this time, and caught it with my hands before it took my throat. More barbs, smaller. That was when fear turned into rage. This wasn't some pissed-off hermit. This was a setup. I ducked under, stumbled forward, and my bad leg almost folded. I caught myself on a tree, bark scraping my cheek, and forced air in and out until my vision stopped tunneling. Eventually, the needles turned to gravel. Real crunch. The fog thinned. The sky went from white to gray, and I followed the sound of a road I couldn't see yet. When the trailhead finally appeared, it felt like the world snapped back into focus. I staggered into the lot, right as sunrise started leaking over the ridge. My sock was soaked. My shin throbbed. My throat felt sandpapered raw. I turned and stared back into the fog. Nothing stepped out. No light. No man. Just trees acting innocent. A couple pulled in while I was wrapping my leg with my shirt. The guy saw the blood and started doing the tough guy thing, saying he'd go look. The woman grabbed his sleeve hard and snapped, "No, don't be a fucking idiot." He snapped back at her like this was about him being embarrassed, and she snapped back louder, and the argument got mean fast. I kept flinching at every raised voice, expecting the man with the rifle to appear at the edge of the lot. I told him when I saw Shaq boots, rifle, wire, and the guy's face went pale. He stopped playing brave. The woman called it in and didn't let him move an inch toward the trees. She shoved her phone out to me, like she didn't trust my hands to stay steady. At the station, the first ranger looked at me like I'd ruined his morning. He kept steering it toward harmless. Old cabin, private land, fog plays tricks. I cut him off and told him it smelled like bleach and gas and rot, and there was a porch full of boots like trophies. He got stiff and told me to watch my mouth. I told him to watch his fucking woods. We argued until he finally said they'd search when visibility improved, like danger politely waits for paperwork. Then he started pressing me for exact coordinates, like my inability to pull numbers out of a dead phone proved I was exaggerating. I said the compass spun and the fog ate everything, and he gave me this tight little nod like that was convenient for him. A deputy took my statement after that and asked if I'd been drinking, asked why I left the marked trail, asked if I was sure the rifle was real. I laughed once, ugly, and it turned into coughing because my throat was shredded. I showed him my shin. The barbs left punctures in a neat little pattern, like a mouth. He wrote it down without looking up, like it was just another file. When I asked if they were going out now, he said, "We'll see," and I wanted to hit him. I made it home and didn't sleep. I rinsed my leg in the sink, and the water ran pink, and the smell of bleach from my own bathroom made me gag. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that low glow sliding between trunks, leading. I kept checking my compass on my kitchen table just to watch it point somewhere normal, just to prove the world still had directions. I called back that afternoon. They sounded annoyed. They told me they had other calls, other priorities, like I was a guy whining about a stolen bike. I reported the shack. They searched later. They told me they didn't locate anything. But the fog had cleared by then, and whoever lived out there had hours to shut the door, kill the generator, drag the boots inside, and let the forest swallow the evidence like it always does.